Okay, so this is my summer update of my frugal vegetable garden, and let's take a look. A lot of things have changed, but some things are still the same. I got the kales growing quite well. Had a few pest problems, but hand picking them seems to be effective at controlling them, and they're doing great now. I've harvested many kale leaves off of this plant. It's very high in nutrition and easy to grow, so I would recommend it. The middle of my garden, which used to be occupied by beets and spinach and some broccoli that didn't survive, is now full and bursting at the seams of bean plants. These are bush beans, but as you can see, they're just sprawling everywhere. Yeah. A lot of them are just forming pods now, and we're going to be harvesting them very soon. Over here we got a tomato plant that I couldn't find a place for earlier in the season, but now I've planted it in my actual garden bed. I started this one from seed, but it had some early blight issues. I had to cut off a bunch of leaves, but it still has tomatoes, as you can see. Hopefully it'll recover and come back even better. Over here we got the Swiss chard still growing from earlier this spring. These cauliflowers are gigantic, but the weather is way too hot for them at this point, so they probably won't be making heads until later on this fall if they survive. They've had cabbage bug issues as well. Got the marigold. It still hasn't bloomed yet, but it's got little flower buds on it. And over here we have another kind of tomato that I didn't plant. It's just a volunteer, but it has little cherry tomatoes on it. And they're coming along. And then finally, a pepper plant that I had put in earlier. It's, I believe, a Hungarian wax pepper, but it's got a few blooms on it. That's the main bed. So here's a tomato plant I have growing. This particular variety is called Rio Grande. This is an experiment that I've been trying out with a different method of gardening called dry mulching, or watering or growing plants without irrigation. So I haven't watered this tomato plant all season since I first transplanted it into the ground. And just by the thunderstorms that we've been having and the spring rain, it has got enough water to not just survive but also flourish. It's got tons of tomatoes all over it, beautiful looking fruits. They're not ripe yet, but hopefully soon they will be. And they're just all over the plant. You can see them. There's some more. Got more flowers growing up at the top. Basically, the method just consists of not growing plants too close together to any other plants, like widening the spacing between it, as opposed to intensive crop methods which close the spaces between plants, and also weeding out any plants that try to grow up around the diameter of the canopy of the plant, because that's typically at least how far the root system will go, if not more. It basically just gives the roots lots of nutrients and water without competing for any of it. And it seems to work out very well, even though it's contrary to what most gardening techniques advocate, such as mulching. But anyway, that's my dry gardening experiment with the tomato. Alright, so here's where my pea patch was from earlier this spring. I already went and ripped them up because they were turning yellow and not producing any more pods, but contrary to what I just talked about with the tomato, with this area I'm actually practicing more permaculture style methods where any weeds or excess vegetation that is removed is just put back onto the ground to feed the soil and retain moisture. I don't have too much growing over here right now. It's kind of in a transitional phase, but I planted some flowers, and this is a beet that just somehow started growing, and another bean plant that started growing. In this little area, I'm trying to germinate sage, a perennial version of sage. Well, they're all perennial really, but the culinary sage. And then over here I have a grapevine that is getting established, and it really seems to enjoy having all the mulch break down and keep the soil nice and cool and also filled with moisture, so it retains moisture very well, just like the other method. So it's really just all about moisture retention and breaking down nutrients in the soil. Okay, so here's my bean patch. There's a lot of dogma going around on the internet, I feel like, that kind of just makes it seem like beans are this excellent fertilizer for your soil and you won't really need a whole lot of anything else if you plant beans, to at least to fix nitrogen, because beans do in fact fix nitrogen, but it's not as much as people seem to think or tell others on the internet. I unfortunately believed it for a little while, and then a lot of my beans, these are supposed to be pole beans, but they've barely done anything this year, and I did not amend this bed thinking that they would produce pretty well, since they, you know, capture their own nitrogen from the air. Some of them are doing okay, but I definitely think some fertilizer or compost would have helped them along. They're doing alright. I feel like a bonehead because I just now put sticks to help them climb, and I've been having to kind of guide them to them a little bit, but hopefully soon they'll start reaching the top of the fence and giving me some good beans. Here's a succession planting that I did about 2 weeks after this first patch, and as you can see, there's still, I mean, there's a few beans on them, but they're really don't have that much. There's a couple different varieties here, but the actual ones that are doing well are the Kentucky Wonder, which I've had good success with those before, so I recommend growing those. Anyway, I plan to do another succession sowing sometime here in the next week or two to hopefully give me a fall harvest of beans. Alright, here's my jalapeno plant. It's gotten quite a bit bigger. As you can see, it has one fairly large jalapeno on it, and other pods are forming right now. I have another jalapeno plant in my other bed that's also doing pretty well. Just now getting hot enough for the jalapenos to produce. But once they get going, there will be a lot of them, so I'm not too worried. Oh, the bugs have pretty much just destroyed my potatoes that I planted back here. Fortunately, I wasn't trying too hard to keep them alive. I just wanted to see what would happen if I threw some back here, but like I said, I just didn't care for them, and they ended up getting eaten by bugs. Oh well. Okay, so last month my corn was only a few inches off the ground, and now they're pretty tall. I'd say they're probably about 3 to almost 4 feet in height, and still growing pretty well. My succession planting didn't really do anything, because now the actual corn that I planted later is actually taller now than the ones that I planted earlier, so not sure what happened there, but it's probably just a fertilizer issue, as I did not amend these beds whatsoever. Here's a tomato that I have growing near the corn patch. You can see those big beef steaks right up there. Bugs have been eating these too, but hopefully there will be enough for both of us. And then I just started some, these are pumpkins, squash, and another variety of squash. And hopefully they will mature by the first frost. Lastly, here are my blueberry plants. They're just starting to ripen. I've had a few over the past few days and they're delicious. And I didn't really do anything to this bed. I kind of just let them grow and they look pretty healthy. They could probably use a little pH adjustment because their leaves look a little too light green, but other than that, they're doing just fine, producing delicious tasting blueberries. And here's these smaller guys that I got earlier this year for free, basically, and they're growing pretty well too. Thanks for watching my video, and check back for more updates next month and a new series coming to my blog, new article series that I think everyone reading my blog will enjoy. Thanks guys, have a good day.